Hi there, if you're a fan of He-Man and Masters of the Universe and you live in the UK, you've had quite a raw deal over the last few years because the Matty Collector figures were a nightmare to get over here and cost a fortune, and when Super 7 took over the licence, the figures were even more harder to get. So my son and me were very happy when we went to Forbidden Planet on New Year's Day, and we found this, the Classic Collection She-Ra. This is basically a new figure in the sort of classic vintage 80s style, an 80s style card. As you can see, it's very exactly the same as the layout of the old figures, same dimensions, everything. It's a Super 7 at the bottom, sort of Mattel, an adult collector. Obviously, She-Ra was not done as a character in this range back in the day. And the backs of the cards are attempts to try and sort of invoke the sort of classic sort of backs of the cards as well. But the artwork's a little bit sort of photoshopped for my liking, if I'm honest with you. But it's a nice attempt. You see the 4 characters available: Filmation He-Man, Filmation Skeletor, She-Ra, and Filmation Hordak. Plus we've got Hero and Eldor to come, The Powers of Grayskull, which was a toy line from 1987 that never happened. So you may think I commit sacrilege and rip this off the card. I'm not. As luck would have it, there actually was a second She-Ra in Forbidden Planet on New Year's Day. So this is one I'm actually going to review and have a look at. This is the loose one. Now, before we proceed, let's go a few other things. Right, so let's just go over how she is. It's a conscious attempt to try and sort of recreate the classic 80s figures with some slight differences, which I think are improvements. Firstly, joints at the bottom. They've done away with the horrible elastic bands at the bottom. They've gone kind of pin joint, so the legs can kind of sort of go back and forwards, but also you can sort of move them out slightly as well. But apart from that, really, it's pretty much the same as the old figures. Waist sort of pulls back. You get the sort of the power punch. You can't really twist the head very well on this one because of the hair, but the capes are a vast improvement because rather than being sort of a plastic cape, they're actually made of cloth, so that's much better than what we've had before. And her skirts with a kind of very sort of pliable, sort of rubbery plastic. Okay, and she comes with a pack of weapons. Just put it back there for a moment. These are very similar in style to sort of the old 80s weapons. So you essentially get a power sword with a sort of stone in it, sort of much like the sort of one you saw in the sort of cartoon. I believe that's how it looked. And you also get a power sword without the stone. Actually, having said that, I think that's meant to look more like the one from the actual original She-Ra figure from the 80s. I think this was the one from the Filmation show. I could be wrong. And you also get a shield as well. Let's see how these look on her. It's not quite a tight clip on that actually. That's very different to what I remember the old shields being like. And the sword goes in the hand quite well like that. Okay, so that sits there quite well. Let me just compare contrast. I did dig out He-Man's sword from the 80s. This one's slightly damaged, missing the sort of the guard around the hands. You sort of see it's, yeah, they are a completely different sculpt, aren't they? Obviously the She-Ra one's a lot smaller. So now to give you an idea of how she looks compared to some vintage figures, unfortunately all my vintage Princess of Power She-Ras from the 80s are all in storage. So the only figure I could find was Double Trouble. So you can sort of see, they look okay together. Actually the Princess of Power one's slightly more bulkier actually, like she's been taking steroids or something. Whereas this one's a bit more slender. So that's how she kind of looks with her. I think the figure that this She-Ra is kind of based off mainly is the original Teela figure, which we've got here. You can see a lot of similarities in the pose and the hands. Yeah, and actually both arms look exactly the same, don't they? They look very similar. Obviously the boots are different. I think the sort of the chest pieces have a lot of similarities as well. Yeah, you can sort of see there's a lot of similarities between these two. So I think sort of the original sort of DNA of this figure is the original sort of vintage Teela. Any big differences, you notice the plastic on this new She-Ra, it's very sort of shiny, which I'm not sure, it makes it look a bit sweaty. I'm not so keen on that, but I like the older sort of plastic more, if I'm honest. But yeah, definitely these two are sort of, you know, could be sisters. Right, and also, see how she looks next to her twin bro. There's a original vintage He-Man. Again, sort of the shinier plastic does distract a bit. They sort of work together, you know, make a nice pair, as it were. And here is how this sort of classics vintage style She-Ra looks next to the Masters of the Universe Classics She-Ra. Obviously this one has far less articulation than the Classics one. Kind of like the face on the sort of Classics one more as well. You can see these sort of shields. They're actually very different actually. I thought they were more similar than that, but actually totally different, aren't they? You can see the outfits very similar. But this one actually, the white on this one doesn't look quite as vivid as the white on this one. So I think this one wins out on that score. Also, of course, this sort of vintage style figure has a cloth cape, whereas the Classics one has a sort of rubber cape. Okay, they both have the same problem there with the hair sort of getting in the way, sort of preventing the sort of heads moving and whatnot. So we finally have a She-Ra figure compatible with the classic Master of the Universe figures. You don't have to own a sort of miniature Barbie anymore if you want to have a She-Ra to sit alongside your He-Man. I don't have a Swiftwind, unfortunately, so I can't say to you how she would look on a Swiftwind. As I said, this is quite sort of flexible, this skirt, so she might sit okay on a Swiftwind. Again, worth experimenting with if I could actually lay my hands on a Swiftwind at some point. So, as we would say, a definite pick up here. If you can get it, very hard to find. I said I've only seen these out in the wild once at Forbidden Planet. I paid £15 for this one, well both these two actually, because they're damaged cards. Regular retail price is about £23 at Forbidden Planet, so good luck finding these. And before we go, just to mention, we now have a Plastic Passion Instagram page, so you can look for us. We're Plastic Passion 77 on Instagram, so you can go there and check out all our latest purchases and things we're reviewing and things in our collection. There's a few sort of very sort of primitive pictures of our collection room, which we're going to work on trying to improve. I'll do more photographs of various cases I've got in the house as well as time goes on. So sort of keep your eyes glued to our Instagram page. Again, the page is Plastic Passion 77. Okay, thanks for watching. Bye.